Dobrý večer, vážení přátelé. Vítejte u nás v kempu na prezentaci a diskuzním večeru, který se věnuje občanským shromážděním. Moje jméno je Milan Brlík a jsem vedoucím kanceláře participace tady na IPRu Praha a dnešním večerem vás provedu spolu s moderátorkou Adélou Hrdličkovou a hlavními hosty jsou dneska Marcin Gerwin, Marcin je polský expert, který vlastně vynalezl nebo vymyslel tady tu metodu občanského shromáždění, o které vám potom řekne více. Marcin bude mluvit v angličtině. Pokud potřebujete s angličtinou pomoct, máme tam nahoře sluchátka, ty si můžete nasadit, protože vzadu tady za tou stěnou jsou překladatelky. Takže budete mít live překlad přímo do uší. Tento večer vlastně spolupořádá hlavní město IPR Praha a Polský institut a ještě ve spolupráci s platformou pro občanská shromáždění, ze které je tady Andrea Culková, ta je za tím foťákem. A Žofie Hobzíková, která teďka... Jo, to je jak na biatlonu. A vlastně Andrea Culková mi napsala e-mail před několika týdny, možná měsíci, a řekla mi, že hele, přijedeme za váma do Prahy se podívat a rádi bychom se s váma setkali ohledně tady této nové metody, nebo pro nás v Praze nové metody občanských shromáždění. Já jsem byl hrozně rád, protože na IPRu Praha se věnujeme participaci už 7 let, ale všechny projekty, které my řešíme, až na úplné výjimky, se věnují lokalitám. Jo, vždycky vlastně ten člověk, který se zapojuje, který participuje na tom plánování, na tom rozvoji, tak v drtivé většině případů se zajímá o nějakou svoji ulici, náměstí, park nebo maximálně čtvrť. A právě ten nástroj občanského shromáždění umožňuje zapojovat velké celky, vlastně celé společnosti, města, státy, Evropskou unii, a myslím, že to jednou bylo vyzkoušeno, nebo se to pilotuje i na nějakém tématu pro celý svět dokonce. A v Praze vlastně tady tento nástroj chybí a my vlastně tímto večerem, touto diskuzí bychom chtěli navnadit jak vás, občany, tak i politickou reprezentaci, aby o tomto nástroji začali přemýšlet. A teďka ještě předtím, než na vás promluví Guy Verhofstadt, tak bych předal slovo Adele Hrdličkové.
Děkuju. Já bych tady dneska chtěla reprezentovat tu lidskou občanskou složku, mimo věcí, co si řekneme, která důležitá fakta, které je dobré znát, tak já bych chtěla vás motivovat k tomu, abyste zapojili toho občana nebo občanku v sobě a přemýšleli nad otázkami, nad tématy, které byste chtěli probrat na případném občanském shromáždění, které si můžete uspořádat. A dneska si to tak nacvičíme společně. Pokud chcete, můžete si teď otevřít Slido, což se píše slido.com, anebo když to zadáte do Google, do Seznamu, do Atlasu, to je jedno, tak vám vyjede taková stránka webová, tak já počkám, slido, měkké i.com, případně můžete použít i QR kód, který se tady občas objevuje. A řekněte mi, jestli jste našli úspěšně tu stránku. Našli jste ji?
Musíte zadat hashtag campuj online, campuj online.
Campuj online, přesně tak. Hashtag už tam je připravený, takže zadejte si campuj online a už jsme skoro tam. Potom tam uvidíte Q&A, což jsou questions and answers. A tam můžete pokládat během celého dnešního večera otázky, co vás napadne, a my si je pak společně zodpovíme, až přijde ten správný čas. Pak tam vidíte ještě další prostor pro poll, neboli anketu hlasování. Ta se otevře až za několik minut nebo desítek minut a tam si vyzkoušíme přesně ten princip občanského shromáždění. Tak.
A toto platí jak pro diváky v sále, tak pro diváky u televizních nebo počítačových obrazovek, který se nás dívají online. Takže pokud se díváte online, otevřete si Slido a začněte nám posílat otázky.
Jo, skvěle. A potom bych teď ještě ráda sem do světla reflektorů pozvala ženy, které stojí za iniciativou za Občanská shromáždění, a je to Andrea Culková a Žofie Hobzíková, které určitě, až nastaví kameru, je to žena činu, nám ještě k tomu něco řeknou teďkon.
Tak já jenom velmi stručně. Já jsem vlastně tady se Žovkou se o Občanská shromáždění zajímáme, tak bych řekla 2 roky. Jezdíme po celém světě. Já už jsem zažila, jo, na osobně Občanská shromáždění na lokální úrovni, na národní úrovni i na evropské úrovni v rámci konference za budoucnost Evropy. A je to fascinující, hrozně jsem se do toho zamilovala, proto to tak děsně chcem i pro Čechy. A musím říct, že nejlepší proces, který jsem kdy zažila, vedl právě Marcin. Takže proto vlastně proto Marcin je tady, protože já bych si hrozně přála, aby ta nejlepší praxe zapustila kořeny tady u nás. A Žofi?
Jo, já bych jenom chtěla okomentovat ty QR kódy, které tady jezdí. My máme takovou hezkou infografiku tady a pak tady jezdí jeden QR kód, který je vlastně k tréninkovému kempu, který se bude konat 18. až 22. května. Budeme to právě organizovat s Marcinem a bude to jezdit vlastně celý večer. Můžete se na to mrknout, oskenovat si to a tam se můžete přihlašovat, pokud byste měli zájem vlastně být součástí pak toho koordinačního týmu v tom tréninkovém kempu. Asi vám to teďka moc nebude dávat smysl, ale po té dnešní přednášce to pochopíte. A pak tady jezdí ještě jeden a to je k formuláři, pokud byste chtěli s náma zůstat v kontaktu a chtěli byste se o tom občanském shromáždění dozvídat víc a být nějak víc zapojený. Tak za mě.
Tak děkujeme a teďka si pustíme příklad, jak o občanských shromážděních přemýšlí pravicoví politici v Evropě.
It's absolutely key that besides representative democracy, there is also participatory democracy in which citizens are involved. In a referendum, you know, what you do in a referendum is you oppose one part of the population to another part of the population. People have to choose between yes or no. In this type of participatory democracy, it's the opposite what is happening. It's constructive. We are looking for convergence. All the recommendations formulated by the citizens were adopted by more than 70%. Of these citizens. So this is a unique process, and I think it will be good to make it permanent. It's a new type of democracy that is emerging, in which a representative democracy plays a role next to participatory democracy.
A v tuto chvíli už bych tady chtěla představit Marcina Gerwina. Já něco řeknu ještě o vás. I will introduce you. You can listen to the translation if I'm right or wrong about your history. Já jsem Marcina ještě neměla sama to štěstí poznat, takže jeho představení tady přečtu. Marcin je specialistou na zapojování občanů do politiky. Při tomto spojení se řadě z vás nejspíš vybaví hrůzostrašné zkušenosti z veřejných projednání, na která už 10 let chodí s těmi nejlepšími úmysly 10 stejných lidí, kteří prosazují stále to samé a mají pocit, že reprezentují veřejný zájem. Marcin Gerwin se jako absolvent politologie, specializující se na udržitelný rozvoj, snažil najít efektivnější způsob, jak lidi do rozhodování zapojit. Našel ho v občanských shromážděních. První praktickou zkušenost s touto metodou učinil v Gdaňsku po povodních v roce 2016. Město se tehdy rozhodlo řešit potřebná opatření k zabránění budoucích škod právě formou občanských shromáždění, které organizoval Marcin se svým týmem. O výsledcích tohoto procesu bude dneska ještě řeč. Následovala práce na dalších občanských shromáždění, k jejíž realizaci ho pozvali místní samosprávy, například ve Washingtonu, Poznani nebo Mostaru. Marcin Gerwin je také autorem modelu evropských občanských shromáždění a autorem několika knih na toto téma. Já bych ho tady už chtěla přivítat. Marcin Gerwin, please come here.
So it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'll be presenting the process of how the Citizens' Assembly works in detail, but I would like to give you also an overview at the end of what is actually possible, because the Citizens' Assembly is part of what is called the deliberative democracy, and how it is connected with the Citizens' Assembly. This will be the last part of the presentation today. However, I would like to start with a little background story. So you heard in the introduction that I studied political science, and this is true, 5 years. I have a PhD in political studies, you know, but I was never interested in it because I was writing about sustainable development. So I was writing about renewable energy. I was writing about sustainable buildings. I was writing about population growth and what can be done to reduce the size of a population so that it fits better in the boundaries of the planet. I was writing about organic food, and during this research and writing this thesis, I realized that all those wonderful solutions for the beautiful world are already there. And the question was, since we've got the solutions for clean energy, since we've got the solutions for organic agriculture, why is it not implemented? So I realized that the problem is with how the decisions are made. It's in the system, in the political system. Who is making these decisions, for whose benefit, and also how. How means the process. So because you heard Guy mentioning the referendum, and in referendum, people can just go and vote. They can cast a vote. Yes, they listen to the campaign, then some of them do a background reading. But what we do now with the elections, that not many people read actually the programs of political parties. So we cannot say that the vote is really conscious. So we can say that some of the decisions are influenced by the way politicians look, whether they have a nice tie or not. Do they sweat during the presidential debate or not? This is one of the reasons Nixon lost the elections in the US, because he was sweating. That's it, doesn't matter. His agenda, you know, his program, doesn't matter, he was sweating. So it's terrible, terrible mistake, you cannot do it. That's a true story. So, and I was skeptical about citizens' assemblies for quite a long time, actually. I was promoting participatory budgeting in my city, then in Poland, and I heard that it came from Poland to Czech Republic. So why the skepticism on my side? Because the group is randomly selected. This is what a citizens' assembly is. It's a randomly selected group of people, of residents of a country or a city, taking into account some of the demographic criteria. And I was thinking like, so it means that not everyone can participate? What kind of democracy is it? So I was skeptical for a long time. So we had this participatory budgeting in Poland, and we didn't want, again, the residents of Sopot, my city near Gdańsk, just to go and vote. Oh, this is a nice project. Let's build some benches. Let's build let's put more trees in the park or something like this, and people would just go and vote. No, we wanted the citizens to come, and during the meeting like this, to discuss the strategic development of the city, what are the priorities, and so on. And we wanted to create like a citizens' forum, so like a space for a debate where citizens could talk about the future of the city and then vote. So, and during the one of the closed meetings, okay, I will tell this story because it's crucial. The mayor of my city said to one of the city councillors, if you organize a meeting like this, I will bring 200 rugby fans and they will vote as I will tell them. Because he's sponsoring the football club, the rugby club. He could do it. And when I heard this, I was like, all right, no more open meetings, because you can manipulate them just like that. So what is the solution then? Oh no, random selection. But it turned out, because I was skeptical just because of the non-participatory way, because it's just for those selected. But then I realized that you can actually open the process up. You can stream it live. You can invite residents who were not randomly selected to propose suggestions, to comment on the proposals. So it doesn't need to be a closed process just for the randomly selected group. And this thinking led to creating some of the standards that we are currently using as a Center for the Democracy. And does this democracy, because the title here is democracy. Yes, it's about participation, but when citizens come and make decisions, this is more than participation, this is democracy. All right, so a citizens' assembly is this randomly selected group, and what does it mean representative? I mentioned that there are demographic criteria. What does it mean? Such as gender, age groups, level of education. In the city, this would be district. Depending on the country, it could be also ethnicity. It could be the language spoken. Like, for example, in Belgium, like there would be 3 languages, which should be taken into account for the national level citizens' assembly. In the United States, it would be also, for them, it's like a special situation in the United States. For them, this political attitude, political leaning. Are you more conservative? Are you more liberal? Because the country is so much divided by the elections into are you Democrat or Republican. So it's important also that it's not just the Democrats or not just the Republicans sitting in the Citizen Assembly. That is why in the US there is this additional question asked. Why? Because you want the group to be trustworthy. You want the whole process and the group to be credible. Why? Because it is taking decisions which will have an influence on your life. All right, so the wider context, the spread of citizens' assemblies around the world. It actually has started like in the 1970s. The original name of the process is a citizens' jury. It was invented by a person named Ned Crosby. And then it spread to other countries. I learned about the citizens' assemblies from the experiences from Australia. I read the reports, and there was some part missing. So it was very good, actually, because I had to invent it. So it was very creative. It still is creative. We are still developing it. We are learning, and after every citizens' assembly, there are some updates and upgrades. So right now, what I will be presenting for you today, it's the version that we have created after like 5 years of experiences and many processes, and also learning from experiences from other countries. As it was mentioned by Milan at the beginning, you can organize it on the city level, but it can also be the national level, like in Ireland. It can be a small topic, like in the city of Mostar, like small, okay, like a usual topic, like not very controversial, like how to keep your city clean. This was the topic for the city of Mostar. However, in Ireland, the topic was related to changing the constitution. It was about abortion. And during the first constitutional convention, because they have started right away with the questions related to the constitution, they talked about marriage equality. And this was inspired. This outcome of this constitutional convention led to a referendum, and they changed the constitution, and equal marriage is currently possible in Ireland. Not just through the Citizen Assembly, because it had to be approved by the vote in a referendum. And in recent years, the Citizens' Assemblies have spread around the world. They became more and more popular because of the climate movement, because of the Extinction Rebellion, which were emphasizing it as one of they call it the third demand, to organize a Citizens' Assembly. And this led to, for example, organizing a national level Citizens' Assembly in the United Kingdom. In France, it was a slightly different situation because it was Emmanuel Macron who had the problems with the yellow vests, but he also wanted to, I think actually it was his honest motivation to do something about climate and about environment. So he stood before and supported this Citizen Assembly in France, quite large as for what has been done so far with 150 people, but it can be larger as well. So the situation in Poland looks like this. So it has started in Gdańsk, and Gdańsk has organized already 3 citizens' assemblies. And then there was Lublin, there was Wrocław. Other cities were inspired by this story from Gdańsk. And the actually courageous mayor, you will see him in one of the photos at the end, who agreed to organize the first citizens' assembly on the quite technical topic: how can we better prepare our city for extreme rainfall in the context of climate change? Because the flooding, the rainfall was so strong that they say, well, we didn't expect it. All right, so perhaps there is something to this climate change. So some of those processes were inspired from the bottom up. In Warsaw, for example, there was a coalition of NGOs collecting signatures, because in some Polish cities it is possible for citizens to collect a certain number of signatures and then to present a motion to the mayor, like the official motion supported by the certain number of signatures. And in the cities like Gdańsk and Poznań, to my knowledge, these are the 2 cities in the world when you collect a sufficient number of signatures. I think in Gdańsk it's 5,000 and in Poznań is 2,000. Not that much really for a large city. And in Gdańsk and in Poznań, when this number of signatures is collected, the mayor cannot refuse to organize a citizen assembly. And it is a law. It's a local law, but it is a law. So I would say in Poland it's quite good. But there are also some challenges related to organizing citizen assemblies, and they are not related to the process. They are mostly related to the implementation of recommendations. Because, for example, if the city hall receives 70, 50 recommendations and they need to implement all of them, then they're like, oh, this is demanding. So this is what they have realized with the organization of citizen assemblies, that the number of recommendations may be high, and it may be like putting some pressure on the city hall in terms of organization and funding and so on. Nevertheless, the experiences with the whole process, they confirm that the whole interest, the popularity of citizens' assemblies is partly due to the fact that they work as democracy should. They provide high quality decisions which are well thought out, and they are made for the common good. And this is what I would say, that's the democracy, that is what democracy is for. All right, so where is the magic? So how does it happen that the democracy, citizens' assembly work? What is the reason for it? And first of all, the group is randomly selected. This means that people who are sitting in the citizen assembly, they can be independent when they are making decisions. There is no party leader telling them what to do. They don't need to check what are the polls results of my political party. Would I gain something when making this decision, or would I lose elections if I don't take this decision? They don't care because there are no elections. And this is the key for the success of the whole process, that since there are no elections, there is no thinking, am I allowed to take this decision even though I think it is a good one, but I may lose the elections? Yes, so this is one of the biggest problems with the current political system. In some cases, this causes the inaction. So the government knows what to do, but they are like, we know what to do, but will we be re-elected when we do this? So this is the challenge. All right, with citizens' assembly, it does not exist because there are no elections. And since there is this diversity of perspectives, you can hear young people saying what they think about this. You can see senior citizens, people with different walks of life, looking at the same topic, and during the small group discussions, during plenary discussions, such as meeting like this with the whole group, they explain, what is my perspective? What do you think? Oh, I think this. What do you think? I think this. So this allows the really well digesting the whole issue. And since the process starts with the learning phase, they really know what they are talking about because they have spent days listening to experts and stakeholders, and they also received some additional materials. In Gdańsk, these were even books, they received not just, some summaries of statements, but they had, for example, a book by Peter Gray, Free to Learn, a very nice book about education, recommended stuff. And yes, and then the recommendations were really progressive, They said that they would like the city to look into how can we create democratic education in schools, in public schools. Is there a way of doing it? And by democratic education, it means not learning about democracy. Democratic education is allowing children to decide what they learn and how and when. That's a strong one. And this was recommended by the Citizen Assembly, even though some of the members were obviously conservative. So I remember the conservative member, really think like the national style conservative. So, and when he learned about this idea, and when he became supportive, and he saw the value in the genuine engagement. And he spoke with his daughter. And he told this story to the whole assembly, that he spoke with his daughter and he said, oh, perhaps you would like to volunteer somewhere, perhaps you would like to be engaged, in something. And his daughter replied, but Dad, I have the exams. And he was like, oh no, my daughter is already formatted by the system. So that's and he understood this, what happened. And he really, after the Citizen Assembly, he pushed for it, that he wanted the idea of democratic education to be implemented because he saw the value in it, and he learned about it during the process of a Citizens Assembly. All right, so there is this another reason that when NGOs come to present their ideas, when business group come to present their ideas, they don't need to compete in terms of, oh, we will have those big billboards and advertising television. It's just not necessary. Everyone comes on the same grounds. So, and when the group meets, they have a clear task. Your group, for example, the aim of your group, for example, is to say, what is the best way of ensuring that we have clean air in our city? For example, this was the topic for the city of Gdańsk and also for the city of Lublin. This is what means that the common good is in the heart of the whole process. Then, since the process is organized by the independent coordinating team and it is run by the facilitators who create this good atmosphere for discussion, it is possible to exchange the views in a way which is respectful of other people's. And there is even there are the ground rules for the whole group, which they accept themselves, and definitely respect is at the top. And when you come to the meeting of a citizen assembly and you hear the people talk, for many city councillors, for many civil servants, it is a surprise. They are not screaming at each other. It does not look like the parliament. They are just discussing. There are tensions sometimes, during the first Citizens Assembly in Gdańsk, the one related to flooding, I remember there was one situation, one discussion in which you could sense the tension in the room. They were deciding, they were talking about, there is this pipe and there is a valve, and there is a valve which can be automatically stopped if the water is coming from the river and it's going this direction. It's a backstop valve, something like this. I'm not sure how it's called in English, but it stops the water coming from the river. And they argued about whether it would be possible to finance it from the public money. That's when the tension arose. So, yes, it's magic. So, all right. So, and over the years, we have developed some standards. There is a long list, 22 standards. It's on our website of Center for Blue Democracy. I will just mention the few. Like the basic ones are obvious. Yes, there should be random selection. The group should be demographically representative. And there is also this need for this independent coordination. It means that if the Citizens' Assembly is organized by the City Hall, the members of public administrations are not part of the coordinating team because it should be impartial. And I will explain why. There is the rule of openness so that all citizens can submit their comments. This is the one that I have mentioned. We have it included in the standards. And there is also this rule of inclusiveness. And here it means that potentially every citizen, in our case, who is at least 18 years old, can be randomly selected. This is what is meant by inclusiveness. And there is also the standard of accessibility. So it means that the process is organized and designed in such a way that it is possible to participate in it for the largest number of people possible. There are some recent additions to the standards. Let's start with the last one with the fun. We have realized, actually it was in Poland we don't call it fun. We use the Polish word fajność, and it actually means that the process should be awesome. It should be fantastic. That's the word that we use in Polish. And I think it was very courageous for the City Hall to approve it. It was officially approved by the civil servants. And was the standard used? Yes. And for example, we are proposing something and one of the email came from the City Hall. Marcin, you said the process will be fun, but this is no fun for us, you know, and it should be fun. So they were really using it, and we were using it as well, because it means in practice that the process should be enjoyable. In other words, it should not be boring. And it's in the design. What I mean by this? For example, there was in the city of Poznań, this is the process that Andrea was also following, we had the part when we wanted the assembly members to examine and rate like a long list of proposed recommendations. And we created like a special software for it. And it was late at night, like 10 p.m. at night, and I called a friend of mine who was part of the support team, and I said, Magda, could you like go through the whole process just to check it out? How is it for you? Okay, she said, okay, I will do it. So after like some time, I called her back, and okay, on the scale from 1 to 10, how was it? From 0 to 10, how was it? And she goes like, I wouldn't say exactly that it was 0. And I'm like, all right, we're not doing it. So if it's not fun, then we're not doing it. We need to find another way of achieving the same aim, but we don't want the assembly members to be bored. It doesn't mean that you hire clowns. No, it's not. It's too far. But the process should be engaging. And it is the role of the coordinating team to figure out how to do it, because you can do it. But you just need to have this intention. All right, and independent oversight. Oh, let's skip this. It's all explained on the website. So, but this is, there is something that I would like to, it may seem, oh, the guiding principles, it's just one slide, so much text, but these things are actually super important. And you will see, you have already seen the invitation for the training camp, for the coordinating teams. And actually, one of the main reasons why I think that it's best to have the training for the coordinating team and then to organize a citizen assembly is actually to understand this. Like, what does it mean democracy is for everyone? This is like, these guiding principles were discovered. Like, I was reading the standards and I thought, openness, all right. Including all stakeholders, all right. What's behind this? Oh, democracy is for everyone. So I learned this phrase, this sentence from Peter Emerson, and I think for us, it's like this exactly guiding principle. And the standards are related to it. Definitely the process should be fair, it should be credible, so you should, so that everyone trusts in the outcome. Not just the citizens, not just the city hall, the stakeholders as well. Everyone trusts in the outcome because it's how the process was designed. All right, but what is the aim of all of this? The aim of all of this, it's number 4. It's supposed to contribute to the good quality of life. And definitely what I would like to emphasize as well is that, you know, I mentioned the one, democracy is for everyone. But why? Why is it for everyone? This is related to guiding principle number 6, because everyone is worthy. And this is like the key thing to understand. Why is everyone invited to participate in the decisions related to their city and, you know, their community? Because everyone is worthy. That's the point. This is crucial. This is how we look at people. And this creates the trust. Because when they, even though, you know, we are not standing usually in front of the assembly, it's usually the facilitator, like Adela. So facilitators are running. We are somewhere at the side as coordinators. But the assembly members, they know who is running it. So, and sometimes we say something just briefly, but the process goes well if they trust us. This is so, and they trust us because they see how we look at them. And we provide them VIP treatment. So they are for us VIPs. All right, so one of the standards which I enjoy also very much is ensuring visibility. It means that when the Citizens' Assembly is organized, people should know about it. So there are posters around the city. This is the poster from the city of Poznań. There was like a series of posters, and this one is like couple of months before it started. It's saying that the first Citizen Assembly in Poznań is going to take place next year. And this one is saying that there are those letters with invitations coming up with invitations for the Citizen Assembly. You can check your mailbox and then reply if you wish to attend. And with regards to the fun part, you know, this poster was created by Polish illustrator Ewelina Rivillo. And I asked her, like, Ewelina, could you know, there's this postman, could you make the scarf look like it was from Harry Potter, from the Gryffindor? And she said, I know what are the colors of Gryffindor. This is my house. so here it is. All right, and usually when people think about democracy, they think about this, you know? Serious men in black suits. And it's not like, and these are both Democrats and Republicans. You can make a distinction because of the color of the tie. And for me, democracy looks more like this. So this is the poster from the city of Poznań. It's telling the residents the recommendations are ready. You can check them out on the website. And you as the audience can check out the poster and the details of how it was drawn. And you can take a closer look at the watering can because it has flowers on it. So this is what democracy can be about as well, not just about people in black suits. Sorry, Milan, it was, this is what we talked earlier, but Milan is the professional civil servant, so he's wearing very nice clothes. All right. So this is how the process is organized. This is what we call the governance structure. So there is this coordinating team, but it is independent. However, there is someone checking out if they are following the standards and the guiding principles. And these are called the monitoring teams. There is also the design team, which is recommended in the new places, like, for example, in Bosnia, in the city of Mostar, or in the Washington state, where they organized it for the first time. It is good to have a design team to make sure that the framework, that the principles are correct. Then when there is enough knowledge in the country, enough skills, you can just have a single coordinating team, and it can be, the governance structure can be different. However, if there is a disagreement between the coordinating team and the monitoring team, or between the coordinating team and the design team, there could be a process of arbitration. It's like an outside decision of experts which is final. And this is all described in what we call the rule book, which I'll explain in a moment. So I mentioned this independent coordinating team. What is the reason for it? Because you want the organizers of the process to be trustworthy. You want them to be impartial. And when it is done on the city level, then City Hall definitely is a stakeholder because it is the group of people which is running the city. It is the administration, right? So they're not impartial. So when I put here this photo of a football referee because it's the easiest way to explain it. When Czech Republic is playing with Poland, football, is it okay for the referee to be from Poland? Not really, right? Because why? Because you could suspect that the referee could be in favor of Poland. So it's better when the person would be from Hungary or Spain or whatever. So that is why also there is this need for independent coordinating team. What we have discovered recently, that actually it's best to have two monitoring teams. One is looking at the standards and principles. This is one for academics. And there is also one looking at the assembly program alone. It is checking whether the experts are not biased. They should represent diversity of views. And this is the reason why there is this special assembly program monitoring team. The rulebook is like a mini constitution of the whole process. Our current version, which we have created for one of the cities in English, it's actually 26 pages long. The very detailed rules. This is something that we specialize in, and it's a crucial, even though it's like a legal text or semi-legal text. This is where it's actually one of the key elements of the whole process. It's the rule book. Like the constitution of your country is a key document, the same as in the rule book. All right, so this was the general introduction to the process, the principles, the governance structure, and now let's go through all the phases. Definitely you need to choose the topic. You need to know what is the task for the Citizens' Assembly. Then you want to have your group randomly selected. How you do it? Well, there are several options. You can send personal letters with invitations. You can also send letters to household, or you can hire like a special company which goes from door to door and organizes the recruitment. This is the example of the letters from the city of Poznan. You can also have the nice graphic design. You can have the logo. It should look good. Ian Walker from New Democracy Foundation says that the invitation to the Citizens' Assembly should look like the invitation for the royal wedding. And I completely agree with this. And I would add also that the process should be designed as the royal wedding, so that it's so attractive, so that people read it and they are like, yes, I want to come, I want to participate. It should be attractive. And there are ways to do it. So this is the example of the letter from the mayor of city of Wrocław. And there is an explanation of what the process is about. There is this page, or this actually sheet, the whole sheet with 2 pages with frequently asked questions. It is signed by the mayor. Oh, and I have the pointer. Oh no. Let me go back, okay, and the pointer is here. All right, so, and here it says that the results, where is it? Okay, here it says, recommendations which receive the support of at least 80% will be treated in bold letters as binding for me. This is already in the letter. And it also says, like here, that there is a certain amount of money for all assembly members. So it's not like regular public consultations. Assembly members receive money for it. And it's, in our case, it's like 150 euro for the whole thing, but it could be higher. All right. So, and in these boxes, which you could see earlier, it's like 20,000 letters with invitations which are ready to be delivered to post office in the city of Wrocław. And what happens next? People receive the letters and they read it, and if they like it, they either call or they register online. So this is a voluntary process and you need to register in order to participate. Then then you need to randomly select those people in such a way that the composition, demographic composition, reflects your ideal setup. So, for example, if in the city of Gdańsk there are 51% women, and in the biggest cities in Poland, it's always majority of women and 49% of men, then through random selection, you would like to achieve this ideal composition. Achieving just one random perfect result with regards to just one criterion is super easy. But what if you have 5? Then what? It's super complex. That is why you need those mathematical algorithms. And what was suggested by the mathematician from the University of Gdańsk, a friend of mine, so is that we could use this simulated annealing. He wrote it in the language which is called R. So, and yes, we use it and it works. However, what you also can do, you can have slightly more advanced process, which was designed by the mathematicians from Harvard and Carnegie Mellon universities. They created their team is called Panelot, and you can check the result at the website panelot.org. They have created the process for random selection, which is not just random, which includes the demographic criteria, and it also allows to have as equal chances of being randomly selected as possible, and it involves slightly more complex mathematic formulas, which are just part of their paper, and they have published an article about it in Nature. So it's kind of fancy stuff. All right, but we use the simple stuff. And when I explained to me their methodology, I was like, oh, so we are at the Stone Age. So because we are using, rolling dice. But this is super transparent. Everyone understands rolling a dice. And when you look at this, you're like, what is that? So, and that is why we use rolling a dice, because it's super transparent. We do it at the TV studio. And there is this glass bowl, there are cameras, and it's transmitted live. So you can see either we are randomly selecting a person, or we are randomly selecting like the whole group, which is by rolling a dice, which is also possible. So yes, we are having fun with this. So, and when you have your group randomly selected, then you start with, the first phase is like introduction, getting to know each other, and definitely you want to create this good atmosphere. You have those ground rules, the respect that I have mentioned, listening to each other, being mindful, and so on. So this is all accepted by the whole, for acceptance of the whole group. And what we also have discovered, that there is a need for a little skills training. And the skills training includes going through the whole process in a small scale, like we call it the mock citizens assembly, like a trial process, let's say in 2 hours. But we also have discovered that it would be very good not just to analyze from the intellectual point of view, what are the pros and cons of the recommendations, what are the strengths, weaknesses, and so on. This is intellectual analysis, which we do, which is useful. However, we have also discovered that it would be great to introduce the emotional analysis. How does this recommendation feel? And many people are not really used to recognizing their emotions, so it needs to be included in the skills training phase in order just to understand how it all works. So like a small workshop on emotions is necessary. And definitely it is a decision of assembly members on what basis they make the final decision. Do they follow the intellectual analysis? Do they follow the emotional GPS? It's their decision. This is what we definitely emphasize as the coordinating team. It's in your hands. We are just saying what are the options. So the skills training is over and the meeting, open meeting starts. So this part is transmitted live. It's called the learning phase, where the experts present the topic. These are like short presentations. There are also presentations by stakeholders. they talk not just about the background of the topic, they also talk about the proposed solutions. So this is the difference between our process and some other countries where experts talk only about the background. And we definitely, since we are focused on the highest possible quality of the outcome, it is for us perfectly fine for the experts to present the solutions. However, again, we emphasize that it is in the hands of assembly members to choose. And definitely assembly members could propose solutions on their own, and it is their decision on which they vote at the end. So the next, this is a friend of mine connected his laptop to a computer, and he was sitting at his home and he was watching the live streaming from a citizens' assembly like he was, watching a parliamentary debate. This is like the true photo from the city of Gdańsk. So when the learning phase is over, now it's time for jury to rest. So it's like in the US court, the jury goes to a separate room. There are no cameras, and they are, in the court, just 12 people, but here you can see it's like 50 or 60, and they are discussing in this comfortable atmosphere. There are no cameras because we want them to speak openly and honestly, and also in order for them to speak openly, creating this good atmosphere where they feel safe is super important. I remember one of the assembly members during the first citizen assembly in Gdańsk, the one on flooding, before one of the last meetings, he came to me and he said that they were talking about in English it is called check dams. It's like, these are like small constructions on water made of stone, which slow down the flow of the river. And he walked through the part of the stream in the forest. He made some photos and he showed me them. And I said, well, why don't you show it to the whole group? It's nice. He goes, no, I'm afraid, But like 15 or 20, like sometime later on the very same day, he like stood up and he talked about him going up the stream and so on, because he felt confident and he felt safe to speak to the whole group, because it takes a lot of courage for people to be the only one in the room with a different point of view and to stand up. It takes a lot of courage. And the point of designing the process is so that it can take place, even though someone is not, like the top activist, and no, it's for the regular people. They should feel comfortable and they should feel safe to express their views, even though they may be in minority. One story, okay, short. So in the city of Poznań, they were discussing whether or not there should be a complete ban on burning coal at household furnaces. So, and they were totally in favor of it. But there was one woman who said, I would like to make an amendment to this proposal that there should be a ban on burning coal at household furnaces. However, support for the poorest people should be provided. And some other assembly members told her, you don't need this, they will do it anyway. It's like normal, those programs, support programs are created. And she was like, if it's not there, then I'm not voting for it. All right, for us it's like obvious, because they were discussing it. For us it was like, if you have a proposal, we will add it, another version. So we have created, there were two options for them to vote on. The ban, just the ban, and the ban plus this provision that the support should be provided. And this option won, the one that she stood for, even though there was some initial opposition from other assembly members. So this is what happens during the deliberative phase, which is closed, but now I can tell you about it because it's all over. However, what we have also included is very important, is that there is a preliminary vote. It's like before the final vote takes place, there is a preliminary vote, and the results are published. You can comment on them, you can see them, in which direction the recommendation go. They are presented to experts, to the city hall. The city hall is invited, is asked actually to comment on the costs. What is the possible cost of this or that recommendation? So the review, after the review phase, and it can be like, in Poznań, I think it was 40 pages of comments from the city hall alone, and plus other comments from the stakeholders, like really a lot of material. And after those comments, recommendations were updated, and they have changed. Because, for example, there was one recommendation which had suggested that there should be geothermal power used in the city of Poznań. Sounds good. So the initial recommendation was, let's support this. But then the city hall said, we have actually done a feasibility study, whether it is economically possible to use this energy. And it turned out it's like too deep, too expensive. It just not, it's technically possible, but not economically it won't work. So the support goes down, like immediately, because people read it and they take it into account, because people are smart. So at the end, they vote. And I mentioned the mayor from Gdańsk. You can see him on the right. So he accepted that the recommendations will be binding for him when they reach the support of 80%. This was adopted later on in the city of Wrocław. You could see it in the letter from the mayor. And similar situation happened in Warsaw. That's like, for us in Poland, this is the standard. This is the mayor of Warsaw after the process has taken place. They had a climate assembly on energy efficiency and promoting renewable energy. They had like 50 recommendations at the end. And the mayor is saying here in Polish, I would like to clearly declare today that all of the recommendations will be implemented. And this is the mayor of Krakow before the process starts. He says, he talks about the Citizens' Assembly, and he says that it means that the decisions of the residents of the city of the city of Krakow will be implemented by me. And he says this up front, before the process starts, no matter what the decisions will be, which is a very nice example as well. You could take slightly more cautious approach. Like in the city of Mostar in Bosnia, the city council said what we can guarantee is that we will look into them during one of our meetings of our city council, and they actually voted on them, and they passed all of the recommendations with the supporting them. The city council supported them with 100%, like total anonym. Okay, it's too difficult to word. So 100% support. All right, so, and what else? Okay, to sum up this part, what are the key ingredients for the success? Well, definitely you need to design the whole process well. And you need to trust in the wisdom of people, because it creates, again, this mutual trust between the coordinating team and the assembly members. And this is one of these magic factors for the whole process. Yes, you would like to invite the best possible experts, because people tend to follow what experts say. Why? Because they are not experts themselves. However, you have experts presenting diverse points of view. If there is a discussion on, let's say, nuclear power, whether there should or should not be a new nuclear power plant, there are experts presenting both sides of the, both options. They're supporting both options. If there are experts supporting both options. So, and definitely for everyone concerned here, it's best when there is this willingness to implement the recommendations from the very beginning. I think it is crucial, because the whole point of this process is to improve the quality of life in your city or in your country. So yes, from the legal perspective, these are public consultations. Nevertheless, through the political will, you can organize the process in such a way that the recommendations are implemented. All right, so this was the overview of what a citizens' assembly is, how it is run, what are the phases, and just to conclude, some brief ideas of what can be done, what else can be done with this whole deliberative democracy thing? Well, it could be something permanent, like in the East Belgium. It's a German-speaking community, and they have their own parliament, even though it's super small. But their legal possibility of is kind of large, just like those two big other language-speaking regions. And what they have decided to include in their system is that there is a permanent citizens' assembly which makes a decision about the topics for, let's say, 2 or 3 citizens' assembly in the next year. And this permanent citizens' assembly can also monitor how the recommendations are being implemented. And I think it's a very good, from my point of view, it's a very good example of how it can be, this is this fancy word, institutionalized, which means that it's like a part of the whole political system, either on the city level or like regional level or on the country level. What else? And this is something very new. This is a proposal actually for Poland, for Polish parliament. In Poland we have 2 chambers. We have Sejm, the lower house, and we have Senate, which can review the law, but it is the same, the lower house, which makes the decisions. And you could have this citizens' chamber creating the law on its own. So it could be part of the parliament. Nevertheless, it is not a permanent group, it is a permanent mechanism. So you can initiate it like a citizens' assembly, like a single topic citizens' assembly, to look into a special issue. However, the process does not end with recommendations. The process continues, and there is a way of creating the law in a legal sense, and the citizens' chamber votes on it and adopts it itself. So this is also possible. It's just a proposal for now, so this is something for consideration. Oh, we didn't publish this yet, but so the text in Polish is ready, but it was not published, so there was just an initial presentation, actually with experts. Yes, we didn't talk about it. Oh, okay. So you have a preview of what is coming up in Poland. I forgot about it. So, however, you may think it goes, oh, this is going far. No, it's not. It's just like 25% of the total power. So this is how far it could go. And this is the Valdenia Model. This one is published in 6 languages, deliberative democracy in a full scale. How this one works. All right, so in this model, you don't have general elections at all. Sit tight, right? So, and you have what is called here strategy assemblies. So it's like a citizens' assembly which makes decisions about what are the top priorities for the topic, let's say, education. Then another one, what is the topic? Agriculture. Then another one, finances. Another one could be economy. Another one, social policy. And in this way, the priorities for the next term of 4 or 5 years are created. And then the same group is selecting the minister, the person who will implement it. And this is the way the government is created. So this is the idea for a full version of deliberative democracy. And then you have a government, and then the ministers go to work. And if they are not doing it properly, they can be recalled by the citizens' assemblies or by the citizens' senate, I think. So this is the Valdenia Model. And in case after now, there will be this time for a discussion. And if you have any additional questions after the event today, this is my email, and please feel free to contact me. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Děkujeme Marcinovi. Jak sám řekl, mezi lidmi by měla panovat dobrá atmosféra, měli bychom být uvolnění a nebát se pokládat otázky, ale pokud by přeci jen se někdo styděl mluvit nahlas, tak můžete stále psát do Q&A na Slido. A ten, kdo přišel později, tak když si otevřete Slido na svém mobilu, na internetu, tak tam se přihlásíte pod heslem kempuj online, campuj online a napíšete tam nějaké dotazy, které si tady přečteme, ale teď je už prostor pro dotazy na místě, že jo?
Ano. Má někdo dotaz doplňující nebo komentář? Ano, tady nahoře. Přinesu mikrofon.
Jo, jasně. Marcin Abel is my name. Hey, so that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. It's a fantastic, I think it's a fantastic concept. But two questions popped up in my mind, and I'm sure others have some as well. But in my case, it was firstly, so what topics did you find ideal for this concept, and which topics were perhaps unsuitable? And secondly, I was really fascinated by the fact that in the geothermal energy assembly, the feasibility study was not included as part of the initial informative phase. It seems to me like, what were the citizens actually deciding about? I mean, if it was only, would we like to have geothermal energy? Then that's kind of I think that's kind of like banal. But I'm sure that that such a decision should be much more better informed. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. With regards to which topics are ideal, I would say the topics which are specific. What does it mean? When the topic is too broad, like what shall we do to save the planet? Too broad, right? Not specific enough. When you are discussing climate mitigation strategies, on the national level, it includes agriculture, energy generation, insulating houses, transportation, urban planning, green areas. There are so many issues to consider, consumption, production, so many issues. So from my perspective, since in my view the aim is to achieve at the end high quality outcome, it's best to create the strategy by experts and then to check what are the most controversial bits and focus on those bits. Why? Because there is a limited time for the learning phase. When you say, because in order to understand all the implications, all the possible even solutions, even to consider the solutions related to climate mitigation, it could take like a year or two to go through all of this to understand it all properly. You would need to go through the whole course. And for many people, this is too much. The accessibility of the group, the number of people which could participate in such a long process would be very small. That's why the process would be unrepresentative to a certain degree. So that is why I would say there is it's kind of intuitive limit. How much time could people commit to a process like this? And on the national level, when the meetings are once per month, I would say, okay, maybe 1 year. But on the city level, people meet on Saturdays. It can be faster, one Saturday after another. In United Kingdom, they do weekends. Someone asked why. Well, because it works for us. But why do we do Saturdays only? Because we want people to have a free weekend. So, and this is the main limitation related to time. Some issues, some topics are very technical. Definitely not good, not suitable for a citizens' assembly. There is this very nice example that is it okay for a citizens' assembly to design a new airplane? No, it's too much. Is it okay for a citizens' assembly to decide whether or not we want a new plane? Yes, perfect, okay? Because when citizens come as members of a citizens' assembly, they are also experts. Experts in what? In their lives. They know what is best for them. And since the group is representative in terms of those demographic criteria and so on, even though if they look at the topic from their personal perspective, at the end, the outcome is the common good. And you mentioned also the question about geothermal. Please notice that the topic was not what kind of renewable energy we want. The topic was, should there be a ban on burning coal at household furnaces? And it was proposed as one of the stakeholders that one of the options for replacing coal could be geothermal energy, and a feasibility study was created like some time earlier, before. Definitely, if the topic was what are the best possible renewable sources for renewable energy in our city, this should be the learning material presented to the whole assembly, obviously, yes. Mm-hmm.
We're going to pick one question from Slido. Nebo já to asi přečtu. No, některé jsou v angličtině, některé jsou v češtině. This is an interesting question. When the citizen assembly is permanent or institutionalized, how do you prevent it from forming some alliances or political party-like structures?
By rotating. The term for the permanent citizens' assembly in Belgium is 1.5 year. So quick rotation. I would suggest that 1.5 year would be maximum. 1 year could be enough. So the amount of time is such that in Poland we would say that they don't become glued to their seats.
Thank you. Další otázka z publika. Tak zkusíme tady.
Dobrý den, Arne Springorum, say it in English. When I first talked to a journalist about citizens' assemblies here in the Czech Republic 3 years ago, there was a lot of pushback. It was basically the accusation this would be like a coup, like changing democracy. And my response at that time was, it only works if actually the Czech parliament actually agrees to this process, if we had a national assembly. But I really want to know what your answer would have been and your experience in Poland.
Isn't it shocking that the citizens actually could make a decision on their own? It's quite a shock, right? Perhaps we should ban elections. It's a decision, made by citizens. How shocking is that? And actually, it's an uninformed decision. So I would ban the election, to be honest. So that's why the Valdenia Model was created, because there is a huge problem with elections, and it is related. Yes, all right. Nevertheless, Poland is in a what's the word for it? It's in a strange political situation, right? When I'm talking about the Polish government, it's like the Hungarian government, like Donald Trump government, this kind of government. Would it be a good idea to organize a citizens' assembly with this government? Not really. Why? Because you want to trust the process. And there is a huge risk that the process would be in some ways not ideal. I'm using this diplomatic language, I'm learning this. So, and would it be possible to organize an independent citizens' assembly? Yes, yes. Why? To show that the process is possible, that it works, and that at some point in the future it could be taken up as a part of a political system. And definitely one of the best ways to promote citizens' assembly is to invite politicians for a meeting of assembly members so that they can see it. When people are used to traditional public consultations, to the open meetings, there is often shouting. People don't know what they are from the perspective of the civil servants of city council. They don't know the topic and so on. They are uninformed, and there is a lot of skepticism around traditional open meetings, and there is a reason for it. However, when politicians come and they see the citizens' assembly, they are kind of shocked. There is this reasonable discussion. They are asking good questions. Oh, this is different. We want this. But there is this need for politicians to, the willingness to engage citizens, to understand democracy as something more than them electing us. So, and for many politicians, for some politicians, it is so. But like it was for the mayor of Gdańsk. He wanted to engage citizens more. This was like personally, he wanted this. The president of this parliament in East Belgium, he wanted to find an answer for what he perceived as a crisis of democracy, which led to extremist movements rising up. He thought that there is something wrong with the form, even though, you know, East Belgium, it's so stable, so stable. It's such a nice place, you know, everything works there. And they were discussing, okay, but what will be the topics for us, you know, since it goes well, you know, and it does go well, at least from our perspective. But even so, he thought, no, we need to do something about democracy. There is this low trust in government and so on. That's why he said to the group G1000, could you design for me a process of a permanent citizens' assembly? It was designed especially for this region. They are pioneers.
I'll ask you to put the headphones on. Oh. I will read it in Czech. Zajímavá otázka tady na Q&A, která mi teď zmizela, pardon. Tak je jich tam spoustu. Bohužel nestihneme všechny zodpovědět kvůli jasným časovým limitům, tak potom na ně zodpovíme písemně. Je to tak. Otázka. Je-li účast dobrovolná, není placená a je časově náročná, jak se daří zapojit samoživitelky, občany ohrožené chudobou nebo extrémně pracovně vytížené osoby?
Well, it is paid. So definitely what I showed you in the letter, even in the letter it was in bold letters, but it is paid. So when it comes to mothers, definitely child care is provided. It's standard of accessibility. We have already had like a small child sitting at the back, drawing things, and like a good way, a good practice here would be when you have this registration questionnaire. You ask some things like, what is your level of education? Could you provide your phone number? Then you can ask, what are your additional needs? Like, for example, dietary requirements, or do you need a child care? Or do you have a certain kind, perhaps you have a certain kind of disability, and you would need like someone supporting you in terms of hearing or something like this. So this is like considered like obvious standard, right? For us, during the first Citizens' Assembly, it was included like written specifically in the letter that any type of disability will be taken care of. And then one of the civil servants said, Marcin, you don't need to write it because we consider it as obvious and it will be taken care of. Even though, some citizens may not know it. So it just depending on situation, but it's just taken care of.
We'll take the last.
Oh, the last? We are finishing? No.
Last question from the audience.
So, just simple question. How are experts selected to present the topic?
Yes, that's a crucial topic of question, of course. So this is the role of the coordinating team. So it goes like this. First of all, let's say the topic is what can we do to have clear air, right? So the coordinating team may have already some ideas, so they create a list of possible experts. But at the same time, the stakeholders are invited. The stakeholder is any group which is related to the topic. It can be a non-governmental organization, it can be a public institution, it can be academic institution. You identified who the stakeholders are. Let's say Greenpeace, Extinction Rebellion, or whatever kind of NGOs. You create the list, you contact them, and you ask them the same question. What topics should be in the agenda, and who is the best expert to present it? This is how you create this long list of experts. And definitely you want to, in your agenda, to include this diversity of views. So, and the list of experts usually is longer than the number of time slots which is available. Let's say there are 8 time slots per day, because the assembly usually for us starts at 10 a.m. and it's over at 4 p.m. It happened that it was prolonged, but we know that at 5 p.m. people are tired, because it's a really it's a lot of information, and when the assembly meeting is long, it's difficult for people to keep up. So let's say you have those 8 time slots for the first day, another for the second day, so you have 16 time slots, and you have identified 30 experts. What happens in this case? So the coordinating team is choosing the best experts from their point of view. For example, we check who the person is. We can watch some YouTube presentation to check how is the person speaking, whether he or she is a good speaker, because some are great academics, but they need to speak with the audience which may have a primary level of education. So it should be also taken into account. And this is how the decision is made, who is in the included in the live presentations. Then this preliminary agenda is sent to the monitoring team, and they check, is it okay? And stakeholders and this, like NGOs, and they are in the monitoring team. And they have their favorite experts, and they definitely have to have them in, they check it. So, and what happens with the rest? This is what we have discovered some time ago, that the best option is to invite the rest of the experts to create written statements or to make recordings. In this way, you include everyone. This is the most inclusive way of creating the agenda, and actually it's kind of an almost non-selection of experts, because you want to create to include everyone. However, let's say that the best experts are invited for live presentations. Plus, it's not over. There is a standard. I didn't mention it because we have those 22 standards, but one of them is that the assembly members can choose experts on their own. So they look through the list, and if they say, oh, we would like to have also this person, they vote, simple majority. All right, so it's our role to, as a coordinating team, to invite the experts that they have suggested. And one last thing is that from the Poznań Citizens Assembly, we have come up with this idea of an afternoon tea time with experts. It was done online. It sounds nice in Spanish, it's merienda with experts. So it's like let's say there were 8 experts on Saturday, and assembly members vote on 2 experts they would like to invite for the additional meeting. And it's 1 hour, and it's like a regular conversation, because and some assembly members say they like it better than the regular meeting because there is more time and it's informal. We did it online, so there was like 1 hour, and every time it was longer because the conversation was good, the experts are relaxed, and you don't need to rush, and it's like going in depth. That's how it works for us.
Thank you. Má někdo ještě urgentní otázku, kterou by se chtěl zeptat?
Si předejte mikrofony.
Dobré, už opravdu poslední. A pak
I have a question about the size of city, if there is any limitation, or whether you can do this assembly with, I don't know, 5,000 people city.
Yes. Okay. So actually, with small cities, it can be problematic due to the method of inviting people. So because if we have an assembly of the size, let's say 60 people, and we send invitations to 20,000 households, and there are only 3,000 households in the small city, then what? Like everyone receives it? No, it's nonsense. So for the small cities, so I don't have experience with small cities. However, the way it could be done goes like this. You send out letters with invitations to a small group, let's say 200, 300 people, and then you follow up with household visits. As I hear from Germany, they did it, and it's super efficient. So, however, I cannot confirm it from our experience in Poland because we haven't done it. But the small size would be a challenge. If you go to the village size, then the assembly doesn't make any sense. You have just general assembly, and because random selection is pointless. When it comes to the bigness, so definitely the European level has already been tested, and there was also a pilot for the global assembly, so you can go as high, as large as global one, definitely possible.
Tak děkujeme, to určitě stálo za to, ten poslední dotaz. A teď už se přesuneme opět k Slido.
Máte tam možnost vlastně napsat téma, které si myslíte, že by se v rámci Citizen Assembly mohlo řešit. Budeme brát třeba nějaké generické město, nebo můžeme přemýšlet třeba o Praze. A vlastně buď tam můžete napsat nějaké svoje vlastní téma, anebo můžete posílit téma, které už tam je napsáno. Nevím, jestli u toho můžete přímo hlasovat, ale vlastně tím, když vlastně uděláte copy-paste a napíšete tam to téma, které už tam je znovu, tak vlastně získá další hlas. A my to uvidíme, ano, my to uvidíme už tady.
Tady se přesně tvoří taková ta mindmapa, ze které vyvstávají většími písmeny ta témata, pro které je hlasováno vícekrát, která tam jsou zmíněná vícekrát. Takže tady můžeme živě vidět, co se rojí v hlavách lidí, ať už tady, nebo co nás sledují online.
Lokální podniky. Co tím bylo myšleno? Bezdomovectví zatím vyhrává.
Jsme praští, bych řekla v tuto chvíli.
Mm-hmm. A zkuste hlasovat tak, aby nám z toho vylezla, nebo aby nám z toho vyšla 2 témata, která si myslíte, nebo která tato skupina, co se dívá buď online, nebo tady v sále, považuje za nejdůležitější.
A samozřejmě pište to, co vás opravdu zajímá nebo pálí, ta témata, ale bylo by super, kdybychom se teď už zaměřili na to, co tam máme a vybírali, co je pro nás prioritou z těch, co tam jsou, aby nám opravdu vylezla třeba nějaká ta 2 témata a my jsme se k nim potom mohli vztáhnout. Ale házejte samozřejmě, co potřebujete zmínit, protože to je pro Andrejku zásoba inspirace.
Některá témata tam jsou, dejme tomu, rozložena do více pojmů, nebo rozdrobena do více pojmů, jako třeba auta, parkování, automobilová doprava. To se pravděpodobně vztahuje ke stejnému problému. Ale zatím nám vystupuje dostupnost bydlení. Tady asi spousta Pražanů. Tak, dostupnost bydlení máme 10 bodů, na 2. místě cyklodoprava v závěsu, sociální bydlení zatím na 3. místě.
A ta auta?
Tak jo. Myslím si, že už se to asi přestalo hýbat. Možná můžeme vyhlásit ty 2 vítěze. Takže na prvních 2 místech máme na prvním místě dostupnost bydlení s 12 body, na 2. místě cyklodoprava s 10 body. A teď co s tím?
Okay, so we voted.
Yes.
About the biggest troubles or problems we have to solve in Prague, mostly, I guess. And it's, I don't know how to translate it, dostupnost bydlení.
Accessibility of housing.
Yeah, housing.
Affordability, maybe, yeah.
Yes, and the second one was cycling.
Yeah, cycling infrastructure, let's say.
Yeah, cycling in infrastruktura. And I would like to ask you about
Actually, climate neutrality, second place.
It's a second place.
Yes, yes.
That's a big one.
I agree, that's a big one. For sure.
Yes.
I see that the first one, housing, is more like real life, everyday life.
Yes.
And climate crisis or climate change, it's also real life,
Yes.
but it's more abstract for the citizens.
Yes.
So I'm glad we have these different topics, and I would like to ask you about the wording, about the framing.
Okay.
What's the
Correct way of doing it. So, like first of all, like it's easy to create. When you do a brainstorming, it's all right, perfectly fine to suggest topics like this. It's all good. However, when it comes to actually preparing a topic for a citizens' assembly, what I would like to recommend would be to include a problem statement. With regards to housing, what I can already guess is that the probably prices of the rent, right, are very high and so on. So you create a problem statement, and then you ask the question of how can we address this issue. But the problem statement should be clearly defined. And when you organize a citizens' assembly on the city level, it should be also clear that the solutions should be within the range of options, legal options of the city. However, you could also, but because this is what the city council or the mayor can guarantee. This is what I can do from the legal point of view. This is like my range of options. There are other possibilities, but change in the law is required. So I think that in most, not in most, but in some Polish cities, it was open. Residents, the assembly members could vote on something which was outside of the power of the mayor. And then the mayor would go to the parliament and request changes in the law according to the recommendations of the assembly members. So it is also possible. But the mayor cannot guarantee that the parliament is outside of his power. And this is clear again from the very beginning. Like from the what can be done in Poland, for example, in terms of housing, it could be like creating new like urban zones where affordable houses could be created. There can be some public houses. There is like a range of options, and this would be discussed during the possible solutions would be discussed, and assembly members would vote on which should be implemented by the city. And the city would also comment on the costs. What are the costs of all the options? Now with climate neutrality, this one is more tricky. What is the problem statement here? The problem statement here is that the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has increased to such a level that the current state of biodiversity is in danger of being sustained and so on. And our city is contributing to the greenhouse gas emissions in which way? Because this will be like relevant for you. Because in our cities, I'm not sure if it's possible for you to do in Czech Republic, but in our cities, in most of them, it is possible to burn coal at household. You can just throw it to the furnace and burn. So, and it is, from the legal point of view, it is in the hands of the regional council to say that no, there should be a ban. It's not allowed in this city to do so. That is why we had this topic in 3 cities. So it is partially related to air quality, but also to greenhouse gas emissions. There are also greenhouse gas emissions from transportations. And there is a certain range of options which you could implement on the city level without changing the law. However, this is what we have discussed, during, for example, the Poznań Citizens Assembly or the one in Krakow. They were climate assemblies. They were focused on what we can do to reduce our impact. And I remember one of the leading experts in Poland being very clear about it. It's not possible for a city to achieve climate neutrality. It's just not possible. Because even if you buy avocado in your shop, it was transported by a plane, and there are emissions, and there is nothing you can do about it. So actually that I'm explaining this in order to emphasize that the problem statement with regards to climate neutrality should be clearly defined. Climate neutrality on the city level, what is it? Are we talking about emissions from cars? Okay, yes, that's true, there are emissions from cars. What is possible for the city to do in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from cars? This could be a topic. Where does the electricity come from for you in Prague? Where does it come from? Who generates electricity?
I think it's like 60% coal.
But from public companies, private companies, outside of Prague, national big ones, local ones?
Yeah, outside of Prague.
Yes. Is it in the competences of the city? Can you shut down the power plant?
No.
Okay, so this is for you to consider, right? Because there is only a certain number of things that you can do practically on the city level. There are definitely many things. When you are talking about climate neutrality, definitely you would like to touch the national level and possibly the European level. Some of the laws could be European. So this is for you to consider, like to be very clear, what is it that actually is hiding behind the topic of climate neutrality on the city level? There is some research to be done. Like this was the question definitely for Poznań. Perhaps they should talk about because the energy comes from the large power plants, which are either national or private, and it's not in the city legislation, it's not in the hands of the mayor, it's the national legislation. So this should be like research before, what does it mean, climate neutrality on the city level?
Thank you for that. Ještě zajímavost nakonec. Máme tady vlastně jednoho vítěze, který je ve 2 jazycích, a to je nepodmíněný základní příjem. Má dohromady 18 bodů.
To je tak na samostatný večer tady.
Samostatný večer. Dobře. Posuneme se dál. Let's move on in the program, and I think the next point is, jak prosadit uspořádání občanského shromáždění ve svém městě. To jsme probírali dnes ráno a měli jsme tu několik zástupců města, současného vedení města, bývalého vedení města, a diskutovali jsme o tom, jak by se to vlastně dalo prosadit. Dostali jsme se do bodu, kdy jsme usoudili, že vlastně 7 měsíců před volbami se do toho asi nebude politikům úplně chtít. Nicméně je to téma, které si myslím, že ve spoustě politických stran, ať už vlevo nebo napravo, může rezonovat. Jak to vlastně potvrzuje i třeba Guy Verhofstadt, který je vlastně z té liberální frakce. Každopádně, Marcine, co máme udělat, aby se nám to v Praze podařilo prosadit?
All right, so definitely there is clearly the need for political support to organize it. Because as I understand the way politics work for you in Prague, it is the city council taking this decision. So what I would, oh no, I didn't show the last slide. Is it possible to come back to the presentation? It's a crucial slide, I forgot about it. That's, I will change it. Okay, so yes, it is. From the formal point of view, it is the decision of a city council. But who selected the city council? Who is the real power in the city? Who holds the power? So what I would definitely suggest is, if you like the idea, you are the sovereign. You are the power. So you can contact your city councillors and you can tell them what you think about it, whether they should support it or not. Because the aim of the representative democracy is that they represent you. So this is the last slide. I was looking for a quote some time ago, and for you I found this one. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. And it means that if you want something and you believe it, then it can happen. And the fear should not stop you. So this is the last slide from my presentation.
Okay.
Já mám tady ještě takovou poznámku, která mluví o tom, že byste se měli zamyslet nad tím, s čím dneska budete odcházet. Jaký jsou první kroky, které můžete udělat k tomu? Předpokládám, že tady všichni o Občanská shromáždění mají zájem, jelikož už přišli dneska v úterý večer si o tom popovídat. A tak to je to zamyšlení se. A pokud byste měli ještě nějaké v hlavě pochybnosti o tom, proč to nemůže fungovat, proč je to prostě hloupý model, který nás nikam nedostane, tak je ještě můžete vyslovit a Marcin vás rád přesvědčí o opaku, ale já si myslím, že to teda v předchozích minutách už sám udělal, ale pokud je máte, tak se určitě nebojte zeptat. Byla by škoda, kdybyste odcházeli právě s tím blokem a ne naopak s tou chutí se do toho pustit.
What I would like just to say, this process is new, and it's completely normal that there are some issues which are unclear, and there are many things that I did not present because of the time frame for the meeting. So I didn't even go through all the standards. So. Definitely, what you could also have a look at our website. There is a guide. It's like a longer explanation of what a citizens' assembly is and how it could work. And I think that this meeting serves as a food for thought for you. So it's not like right now you need to be like super enthusiastic because in some cases it just takes time, So I was presenting the idea of a citizens' chamber to a professor of the democracy with 20 years of experience in deliberative democracy. He's the author of the phrase, innovations in in democracy. He wrote about it for like 20 years. So I presented the idea for a citizens' chamber, and he was like, I need to think about it. So it's completely all right if you have this feeling, we need to digest it. It's a new stuff, so let's think it through. Unless something comes up, so I'll be, like right now, something to clear, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Tak jo, a ještě teď bych tedy chtěla znova pozvat holky, Andreu a Žofii, který si vezmou slovo závěrem, případně vám dají ještě nějaký prostor na poslední dotazy.
A já vám pak nakonec řeknu, kudy máte odejít.
Velmi důležitá taky věc.
Když budeme mít ještě pár minut, tak bych poprosíme moderátory, aby přečetli další otázky, protože je spoustu otázek. Máte hodně otázek, online chodí, tak když nám zbyde pár minut, tak poprosíme Marcina, aby ještě odpovídal. Ještě má energii evidentně. A já teda jenom řeknu, my jsme ráno měli, jak tady Milan zmínil, intenzivní setkání s politiky. A pochopili jsme, že jsou politici, kteří to opravdu chtějí podpořit. A požádali nás jako jasně, že potřebují jako nakopnout v dobrým. tím, že je podpoříme v tom, že jako občanská obec, občanské shromáždění prostě chceme. Jo, oni to nemůžou tlačit sami. Takže ti, co jsou odvážní, ti chceme podpořit a ty, co ještě váhají, tak je dobrý na ně lehce zatlačit, aby pochopili, že tohle je důležitý nástroj, který rozhodně třeba Praha potřebuje. No. Tak my jsme vás chtěli poprosit, viděli se tady, vlastně cirkulovaly pořád ty slajdy, kde byla pro vás možnost se zapsat, tak se zapište a pojďte s náma. My pro vás nebudeme zastít tolik práce, ale zatím jsme platforma pro občanské shromáždění my dvě. A my maily a potřebujeme podpořit. To nemůžeme táhnout prostě do úmrtí. Jo. taky potřebuji dělat film. Takže opravdu vás všechny zveme, ať se přidáte a každý může nějakým způsobem pomoct k tomu, že se teda ten nástroj, který podle mě je fantastický, tak prostě může tady rozšířit a můžeme pomoct tomu demokratickému přemýšlení. Ono to zní jako fráze, ale bez toho, že opravdu nakopneme ten update demokracie, tak se nehneme. A stojí před náma takový velikánský výzvy, jako je klimatická krize, sociální krize. Máme jako tolik co řešit. A myslím si, že je potřeba aspoň vyzkoušet nástroj, který přináší možnost, jak tyhle velké výzvy řešit. Tak díky.
Já ještě zmíním znovu info k tomu training campu. Training camp budeme pořádat s týmem Marcina. Oni vlastně to budou facilitovat a organizovat pro nás. A je to zaměřený na lidi, kteří mají zkušenost právě s facilitací nebo se hodně zajímaví o ty občanská shromáždění a měli by zájem být součástí toho koordinačního týmu, který Marcin zmiňoval. Je to vlastně část celé té struktury, té organizace toho občanského shromáždění. A bez toho se to občanské shromáždění neuskuteční. Takže vlastně potřebujeme nějaký aktivní lidi, kteří by o to měli zájem a chtěli by se do toho pustit s náma. Takže určitě se zapisujte, přečtěte si info v tom QR kódu a budeme moc rádi, když vás uvidíme pak v květnu.
Intenzivní workshop. Díky.
Tak jo. Díky moc. Díky moc všem, že jste přišli. Až budete odcházet, já jsem dostal instrukce na začátku, tak prosím tím východem přes atrium, jo, když budete tady knihovnou, tak vlastně potom hnedka doprava, protože tam venku se prý něco natáčí. A já bych to možná uzavřel tím, že bych vás pozval k nám do kavárny, pokud je teda ještě otevřená, snad bude, a že bychom si tam mohli dát drink a neformálně si ještě když tak s Martinem popovídat nebo prostě takhle mezi sebou a když tak ještě probrat všechny ty další dotazy, které jsou na slajdu nebo které máte v hlavách. Díky moc všem, že jste přišli a choďte dál do kempu.